Hello, greetings and welcome to Daily Driver with myself, Bass Driver, aka Big Popper Paine, here at Paine's Games, where if you enjoy the content, then I invite you to leave a like and comment, share this with your friends, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to ensure you get notifications of my latest content. So here we are at time of recording, just under 12 hours away from the Real Game Awards, which, if you're not aware, is billed as the alternative to Geoff Keighley's annual Game Awards, which itself has been kicking around for just over a decade. Now, the progenitor of this presentation is none other than Stuttering Craig from Side Scrollers, who, as seen in the thumbnail, has a hattu, and oftentimes he wears it. I wonder if he'll be wearing it tonight as he hosts the debut show where the voting and paying public should have their final say on their top games of the year. The question, of course, has been asked of how relevant are the RGAs? Well, relevant enough for Geoff Keighley to allegedly seek copyright over the term Game Awards, which itself is obviously ridiculous. However, as a former gaming professional, I would posit that the RGAs do have the potential to be exceedingly relevant indeed, and I'll explain why. Let's start with Geoff Keighley's Game Awards. Now, being raised in the generation of the Oscars, the Emmys, the Golden Globes, the Grammys, the MTVs, VMAs, the Brits, the BAFTAs, and on and Ariston, I've always had a healthy scepticism and realistic view of such ceremonies and accolades. Now, whilst there are undoubtedly many exemplary winners of each of the aforementioned that are objectively masterpieces of their respective artistry, one cannot escape the fact that these awards have always been created specifically by the industry, for the industry, with the public merely invited to gawp and gaze at the ceremonious presentation and hopefully drop extra money on the various winning creators, performers, franchises or studios, etc. There have equally, however, been absolute dumpster fire examples of winners of these awards that allude to a further aspect of these presentations, that being the persistent platforming of certain values, politics and morals dependent on whatever current trend is washing over the executives, boards and investors at the top of the industry. You see, traditionally the public would seemingly invest quite heavily in winners of such awards, and in some cases, many in fact, the more impressionable people would build their entire lifestyle, whether briefly or for the remainder of their lives even, around their favourite icon of film, TV, music, and latterly even video games. So these things have traditionally held a lot of sway both financially and sociologically over the course of the last century, and it has been in the entertainment industry's best interest to maintain a vice-like grip over the winners and even potential contenders for such awards. To suggest that at any point the general public, the paying public, the consumer, ever had a truly effective say in these awards would sadly be a shameful fallacy. Reality TV that has plagued the world since the 90s, for example, is absolutely rife with the practice of charging the public for votes towards a result that was predetermined before the show even began airing. And cases of that are increasingly being disclosed. Here in the UK even, Richard and Judy got hit for this. So to my point, this is Geoff Keighley's Game Awards. This is the by the industry, for the industry ceremony, where winners are decided upon behind closed doors by the elite of the elite, and we are talking Lisa Su from AMD, Laura Miele from EA, Rob Kostic from Activision, Phil Spencer from Xbox, and oh gosh, Stephen Ma from Tencent, along with Yves Guillemot from Ubisoft, to name but a few. I mean, just simply based upon the performance of any of these execs companies in the past 5 years, would you consider what this group of people think is the best of the best across 2024's gaming landscape as valid, informed, important? And let's be clear here, these are the people at the very top of the industry making the hardware and software to their own tastes and goals, awarding essentially their own colleagues and or themselves, whilst attempting to influence you, we, the buying public, the paying consumer, that the winner of Game of the Year is worth shilling out another X $100 for the Game of the Year edition that is inevitably in the pipeline, all whilst only affording 10% of a public vote towards the Gamer's Choice Award. Forgive me if I suggest that this is somewhat tantamount to relieving themselves in one's faces, telling one it's a lemonade fountain, and then charging one for the pleasure. Add to this the huge, and I mean vast, sums of money exchanged behind the scenes for advertising. I've heard sums upwards of $250,000 per advert, and when watching the 3-hour-long show, I believe it was, one finds that the airtime was almost 85 to 90% adverts. One has to question what all that money goes towards and what exactly is the return of investment for those buying the advertising. Again, most of the board are single-digit degrees of separation from most of what is being advertised. So really, who is any of this serving? Particularly when almost everyone on the Games Award board walked away from that show to crashing market values, 12J short live service launches, and even being denoted as a foreign military asset. It was a great racket while it lasted, but through a convenient confluence of diminishing returns on tired franchises, politically motivated management, meritocratically opposed hiring practices, diminishing experienced veterans within the industry, and perhaps most importantly, increasing public awareness and the consumer's fresh new resolve to vote with their wallets, the once Atlantean Industry Awards show seems to be the one whose relevance must surely be called into question. I'm reminded of the words of now somewhat controversial figure, Quantic Dream's David Cage. Quote, "If you keep buying shit, what can you expect but more shit?" The times of the consumer rushing out at midnight to stand in freezing queues to get their hands on the latest game of the year, as declared by son of rich folk Geoff Keighley and his band of merry game execs, are well and truly over. Indeed, this week we've seen 47 take office ahead of what they call a new golden age, amidst what appears to be a strong social wind of change across the US, if not the wider world as a whole. Someone who appears to be implicitly understanding of this is Stuttering Craig. And here is where we get to why I personally feel that the Real Game Awards has the potential to grow into a highly relevant resource to the industry. You see, the greatest problem the industry sees today is the gulf of disconnect between the producers of the product and the consumers of said product, as can be seen from viewing the hermetically sealed bubble that is the Game Awards. So, as a former industry vet, I would have every essential member of the exec board, the developers, marketing, all the way down to QA at any given company seeking success today, watching the Real Game Awards. Will it have that many viewers? Probably not, particularly as I believe it is only streaming on X, but if you know of any other way to stream it, please let me know in the comments. However, no matter how small the stream viewership, and indeed the rewatch viewership turns out to be, one thing you can have some relative certainty of is that at least some of the people who have paid their membership to vote, and yes, I know there is some contention over all that, but with that in mind, you can see a number of the people who have signed on to vote, you can see the elite members, etc. But think of how many followers of each of these recognisable names that you see on screen right now, even on their board. How many of their followers will be watching? How many do they have? Then think of all of the other voters who perhaps are actually your regular paying customers. Then think of the last 5 years you've all had in the industry, those diminishing returns, those redundancies, those studio closures, those utterly humiliating failures and walkbacks. How many people behind the Real Game Awards, whether organising or participating in some way, would your bosses claim are responsible for the drop in sales? You know, the fandom, the haters as they're often referred. This right here, the Real Game Awards, this represents more so those that are willing to part with their hard-earned cash in this abomination of an economy than Geoff Keighley's 3-hour-long $250,000 per ad break served to an audience of elite game execs and Alana Pierce. Compared to the wealth of finance, influence and alleged viewership of the Game Awards, tonight's RGAs may be an insignificant grain of sand amongst their dunes of Arrakis. But if the industry really wants to pull itself out of the rut, then I would watch this with keen, attentive eyes and take notes. For if Craig is true to his word, which I have no doubt he will be, then next year's RGAs could be the perfect litmus test For what progress within those supposed winds of change we all desperately yearn for has been made? Will I be watching? Hell yeah, I'll be watching, if I can. You can often find me lurking in the side scroller streams, so I'm keen to see how it goes for Craig, Blabs and all. I'm hoping to be back streaming live at about 1 AM UK time tonight. Not here yet though, over on that purpley coloured site that rhymes with pitch. And it'll be the first episode of Backseat Driver where I'll be watching and commenting on the first Reveal Game Awards, as long as I can watch it on X without logging in, because I don't have an account and I'm not about to get one. If you do know of any other way to watch it, like I say, pop it in the comments and I'll watch it that way. Otherwise, I'll catch up with it in the morning and post a quick review sometime later in the day. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this content, and if you did, please do leave a like and comment. If not, a dislike. Feel free to share on social media, and most of all, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be informed of my next video. This has been Base Driver from Paine's Games. Thanks again for listening. Take care out there. I'll catch you in the next one.